My name is Dr. Susan Jones. I am retired from the Colorado Department of Corrections. I worked all the way from officer up to the level of warden, which is what I retired from. And now I have done the last 10 years. I've actually been retired for 10 years. So the last 10 years, I've gotten to do all sorts of exciting things, a lot of them with Desert Waters. And one of the things I've gotten to do is meet and talk to people all over the country, whether it's by Zoom or by phone or even in person in a lot of circumstances. So this CF2F thing, if you want to call it, this passion that we have at Desert Waters, I've gotten to see that from so many different perspectives, not just from my little corner of the world in Colorado. What I have found is one of the most powerful things about corrections fatigue to fulfillment and the work that Desert Waters is doing is it allows us to start the conversation. And the conversation point is so important in corrections because when you're dealing with anything that has to do with corrections mental health, we as corrections people build up a wall really fast and we don't have mental health problems and we don't want to talk about it. And God forbid that we might start experiencing some symptoms. We are the last people in the world, I think, to actually go get help. So one of the things Corrections Fatigue to Fulfillment specifically did, that intro course that we've done in lots of states in this country, is it gave people a safe way to have this conversation. Because the conversation is so important because, as many of you watching this video know, our corrections culture says we're tough, we're vulnerable, nothing gets to us. All this stuff that happens on the job is just the job. It's what we get paid for. It's no big deal. It's not even a thing, for crying out loud, to even be discussing. The problem with that, of course, is that a lot of us feel it was a thing. It was something we need to talk about. It's something that we're having a hard time keeping buried. And so to go into a class with people that sometimes are forced to be in class, or sometimes they're excited to be there, or they've heard about it from other people, and even people that have no idea what this class even is, and start to see that conversation open is so powerful. And like I said, I have been privileged to watch that throughout this country. One of my favorite stories is as a warden in a high security facility in Colorado, I introduced this course and I taught this course. I taught this course to my staff. And that, of course, had its own challenges and limitations that I won't go into now. And it had its own successes too. I taught that, I retired, and 2 or 3 years later, I was in a Walmart, the local Walmart where everybody goes, right? I was there with a friend's child. So I had a 9-year-old girl with me, and we were on the hunt for certain things for a project we were doing. So we were very, very involved with the hunt through Walmart of just the exact things we needed. But out of the corner of my eye, I saw this person approaching us down the aisle, and they were walking rather aggressively. So it got my attention. I look up, and here is a former employee that I had. And he was one of those employees who was difficult. He was angry most of the time. He was not somebody I would choose to go hang out with if I had a few extra moments. But he was zeroing in on me. We were the only ones in the aisle, and he was coming at us rather quickly, really. So I have this 9-year-old girl who I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? And do I need to protect her, or, whatever, because it was that angry of an approach. He comes up to me, gets a few feet from me, and he stops and he crosses his arms and he says, not hello, nothing, right? He says, you know that class you made me take? And I knew exactly what class he was talking about. It was Corrections Fatigue to Fulfillment. When he took that class, I made him come. All of my staff had to come. He stood at the back of the room, stood up, would not sit down the whole time. It was a 4-hour class at that point, and he stood there at the back of the room with his arms crossed, didn't participate or anything. I made him come. I couldn't make him talk, right? I remember thinking about him afterwards, being worried about him and being disgusted because, come on, this is the man that has now approached me in Walmart and says, you know that class you made me take? And I'm like, uh-huh. And it's been I've been retired for 3 years at this point. He says, I just want you to know one thing. It mattered. And he turned around and walked away. And I'm sitting there, I felt like I had been punched in the gut, right? The way he approached me, the way he talked, even the it mattered was like he was lunging something at me. And he turned around and walked away. And I so wanted to go hunt him down and say, I want to know more about this. How are you doing? What do you, obviously, but I knew, given the circumstances, there wasn't going to be any more information. And so even people that I thought at the end of a class, that was a total waste of time and energy, theirs and mine, They're never going to get a piece of this. They're never going to become more healthy. They're never going to reach out and help other people be more healthy in this work. Even sometimes you get feedback from those people that it mattered. And that is every time I tell that story, I get, goosebumps up and down my neck and stuff, because think about the impact we might have on people that we will never know. And some people are very, very open about the impact, and they come up to you at breaks and at class, and 2 weeks later, and they make an appointment to follow up with you. And I've had all those things happen. But the types of people that didn't look like they were receiving it, that also I get that feedback from eventually, made me understand that this is important work.